We are very pleased to welcome an incredible speaker this evening, and I have Mike McKeever, one of our longtime mentors, wave to the crowd, sir, to thank for connecting me with Larry Flax. Mike organized a special event with his team and Larry a while back, I think last semester, and it went so well. I got so much positive feedback that we thought it was only natural to invite Larry to speak to the entire group. So we're very, very happy to welcome him. Before we get underway with our formal remarks, I would like to call up our Vice Dean of Undergraduate Programs, Ms. Debbie McGinnis. Debbie has been tremendous to work for and with for the last year or so. She has been spearheading our strategic plan for the School of Business and just has undergraduates as her top priority, which for me is an absolute treat. So we're very pleased to welcome Dr. Debbie McGinnis.
Thank you, Willie. And I want to just give a special thanks to Willie. It's because of Willie that we have this wonderful event before us, and she works her heart and soul out to make our experience wonderful for our students and our experience wonderful for our mentors. So please join me in giving Willie a round of applause for all that she does. She's just been tremendous. I also want to take a moment to thank our mentors, and I'm hoping that our students here will just join me in also extending a round of applause for our mentors who mean so much to you and who have so much to offer you. As Willie mentioned, not just for the time that you're here, but potentially for the time after you leave. So please join me and all students in giving a round of applause to your mentors. Thank you so much. So, students out here in the office, raise your hand if you've ever been to a CPK. Yeah, lots of us. And raise your hand if you went to CPK as a kid. Lots of us too. So I am just so thrilled to be here to introduce Larry as our guest speaker tonight. He doesn't know it, but he's actually kind of a hero in our household because as my kids were growing up, CPK was one of the places that we would always go to, and in part it was always because it was one of the places that we all knew we could go to and have a great time. So whether it was the kids filling out their anagrams or all the, getting the crayons and eating the pizzas and the hot fudge brownies for dessert, I never in a million years thought I'd be having dinner with him, so I'm just thrilled. So just a little bit about Larry. Larry is a fellow Trojan, having received his Bachelor of Laws and Master's of Laws at USC in 1967 and 1971, respectively. He worked in law for about 14 years as an assistant U.S. attorney with the Justice Department, and then as assistant chief in the criminal division and chief in the civil rights division of the LA U.S. Attorney's Office. After a stint in law, he decided with his colleague Rick Rosenfeld in 1985 to give up law and instead open a restaurant in Beverly Hills that we now know and love as California Pizza Kitchen. This restaurant has now grown to over 260 CPK restaurants in 32 states in over 10 countries around the world. And the company has grown to include not only the traditional restaurants that we all know and love, but also the outlets, smaller outlets like the one we have right here on our campus in the Tudor Center. In addition, its famous pizzas are now a fixture in the aisles of our major supermarkets. In addition to founding CPK, Larry also served as the CEO and co-chairman of the board of CPK. His newest venture is a restaurant in Manhattan Beach. I just learned it's not his newest venture. His newest venture before that is a restaurant in Manhattan Beach called the LA Food Show, for which Larry served as co-president. And the company is now owned as a wholly owned subsidiary of CPK. Larry is not only a talented business person, he's a caring one as well. He currently serves on the board of counselors for the USC School of Law, the Gould School of Law, and he's also on the board of directors at Faster Cures and is a member of its Philanthropy Advisory Services Board. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce a true friend of Marshall, Mr. Larry Flax.
Thank you for having me. Every time I get invited, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to student groups at a few different universities, I tell the story real early in growth of CPK and being invited to speak at Harvard Business School. And I think that was probably one of my first speeches, if I remember right, that I ever was invited to make to a student, a group of students. And I stood before them and quite in awe of being there, I have to tell you. Because I told them the only way I ever thought I was ever going to get to Harvard was going to be in a bottle. And that stuck with me, and every time I stand in front of, a group such as yourselves, and it's an impressive group, I have to say, I am in awe of being where I am and how I got here. Entrepreneurs all have incredible stories. I mean, I love listening to entrepreneurs and how they founded their businesses, struggled through their early years, grew their businesses, grew their brands. So much goes into it, and so much that you both learn in school and learn in the School of Hard Knocks. Now, I want to thank all you mentors who are, we never had anything like that, even when I was in business school at the University of Washington. This is a really great program. And I want to congratulate the students that are smart enough to take advantage of this program and to start getting the hang of listening to other people and to going beyond your education into what is going to become the real world. And this is an opportunity you should take and you cherish and use, because once you graduate, once you go out and become entrepreneurs yourself, you are then going to be on your own, and you are going to have to be given the awesome, and sometimes it is awesome, responsibility of making some very large decisions. And those decisions are often influenced by the people you interact with and you deal with. And this mentor program will help you in so many ways in being comfortable in that a program of dealing with people. And it's lots of people. It's people you'll hire, whether they're lawyers, accountants, consultants, or people you just come across along the way. There'll be investors in your businesses, but you're learning to listen and learning to find other people's experiences very helpful to you, and they will be, and listen to them. And then, but the ultimate responsibility is always going to fall on yourselves to make the decision. And don't forget that. Ultimately, it's going to be you that will make the decision to take the right or take the left. The best way I can relate that is through a short story. And I don't want to make a really long speech here, because quite frankly, I'm more interested in your questions, and I hope you'll be thinking of some, because that really is much more interesting for me to try to answer what you really want to know about, rather than try to guess it in a what is a rather short speech for a 26-year story. California Pizza Kitchen was an idea born out of frustration. Frustration with the law. To be quite frank, I was a criminal lawyer, and my partner and I were both burnt out, is the best way I can put it, in being criminal lawyers, and we were looking for something else to do. And we loved the restaurant business. We had a smattering with it in a upscale restaurant where we lost a lot of money and learned what not to do. But we couldn't get it out of our system, and what happened was what we did, and we saw it pretty clearly, and I think it stayed with me forever, is we saw what I call a black hole of demand. There was a demand that we saw out there which wasn't being filled, and that was the demand for premium pizza. We noticed that Wolfgang Puck at Spago's at the time was getting a lot of press for serving duck sausage pizza to the stars, and that was making a lot of press. A lot of you may not know the true originator of California-style pizza was Alice Waters up at Berkeley at Chez Panisse. Wolfgang saw her success with her cafe at Chez Panisse with the wood-burning oven and put one in Spago, and then it got a lot of press. We always like to say Alice created it, Wolfgang made it famous, and we capitalized on it. But that's pretty close to the truth. The bottom line is we saw that people were really intrigued by this new style of pizza, which really as we came to learn, the best way I can put it, it looked to us like a pizza that could be to pizza like premium ice cream, like Baskin-Robbins was to ice cream. That you could take it and make a premium product out of it, have it a little more expensive, and then explode the flavor profiles on it. And that's really a simple description of what California pizza really is all about, starting with the barbecue chicken pizza, which of course is our Jamocha almond fudge, as I always say, and then we exploded all the other flavors, Peking duck, BLT, Santa Fe, Thai, it goes on, and we keep doing it. I mean, CBK, it's still the leader in creating the new pizzas. But we saw this. It wasn't something we just stumbled into. We saw it, we named it California Pizza Kitchen after a little war between my partner and I. And those of you who are really into consumer studies and things like this, you'll appreciate this short story. We were really building the restaurant. We knew what it was going to be, and we knew pretty much the menu, the whole idea, but we didn't have a name yet. And one night I woke up at 3:30 in the morning and I said, it's got to be California Pizza Kitchen. I waited till 5:30. I called my partner up. I woke him up. I says, we have to meet at Nate Nails in Beverly Hills for breakfast. Now, we've only met Nate Nails twice. That one time, and the time before that was when he wanted to get married and he felt he needed my permission for some reason. But at any rate, that was the second time. We met at 6:30 in the morning at Nate Nails, and he said, okay, you've got the name. I hadn't told him on the phone. And he said, what is it? I said, California Pizza Kitchen. And he said, that is the worst name I ever heard. And I mean, I tell you, I was crestfallen. That night, we went out to dinner with some friends of ours, and they had some cousins in from Providence, Rhode Island. And we just were talking about, we were doing this new restaurant concept, we were building it in Beverly Hills, and it's still, the first one is still there on South Beverly Drive, and explained what it was, and we said, we have these names we're discussing. One was Delare, which was a combination of our names, and one was Chow, and one was Primavera, and we were a little Spago-ish in our thinking at the time. And then we said, and one is, without leading them at all, one said, one is California Pizza Kitchen, and they said, oh, California Pizza Kitchen. And we said, why? He said, well, the others, Italian sound, we get there sooner or later, but we really rushed to see what a name like California Pizza Kitchen and what you nuts would be doing, And they were really intrigued, and that was our consumer study. That night, shows you how sophisticated we were. Let me tell you something else. We were so naive as criminal defense attorneys. Don't ever think criminal defense attorneys know a thing about business. They don't know a thing about business probably any more than doctors do. It's always been the two groups that you should never depend on for business decisions in a sense. But at any rate, I always say, we risked everything on the first restaurant. We signed on the lease, we signed our homes. We went to the bank and borrowed $200,000 on our law practice. We did not do what you guys, all of you I'm sure would do, would be a very detailed business plan. But I can tell you that if we had done a business plan for CPK Beverly Hills, the way you guys know how to do it, I wouldn't be standing here. And this is where you guys also have to understand, sometimes you have to be so passionate, and the word passion is used a lot in business, and it's true. Sometimes you have to, when you feel it, when you know it, you have to sometimes ignore the odds, because all a business plan will give you the odds. The business plan would not have said we would fail, but it certainly would have told us not to do it. I know that. But we blindly went ahead and did it. We were very naive. So naive, I love admitting this because I came out so well. When we started to build it, we had 1,700 square feet, we had signed the lease, we had the architectural layout, and we went to, a friend of ours built Chin Chin, Bob Mandler, he was a lawyer also, and he put us with his contractor. And we asked the contractor, who showed him what we were doing, and it was 1,700 square feet, and we said, what do you think it'll cost us to build? And he said, well, it's about $100 a square foot. Great, went out, borrowed $200,000, $30,000 to spare, and we figured we'd take the shot. Well, we started building, and the money started going out, and the money was going out, and the money was going out, and pretty soon we were coming up to the $200,000 mark, and the place was now near finished. So we went to the builder and said, what's going on here? And he said, well, I'm going to probably bring in about $100 a square foot, but what we didn't realize, it didn't include equipment, it didn't include HVAC, it didn't include venting, and all the things that we'd never asked the right questions. The restaurant truly cost $550,000, not $200,000. Well, immediately we scrambled. You know, okay, what are you going to do? You've signed your house away, you know, both of us. The law practice, who knew what was going to happen? And we scurried over to a guy who I always mentioned by the name of Bob Kahn, who was our lawyer. Now, this is where you talk about mentors. Mentors can be lawyers. So we went to him, and we told him our problem. And at that time, everybody was doing general partnerships. That was the big deal. 50% to the idea, 50% to the money. That was common practice, 1984. So he said, let's set it up as a limited partnership, and we'll raise the extra. We figured $300,000. It actually took us another 50, which we put in ourselves. It was actually $550 to really get it going. But so overnight, we went out and raised $300,000 from our friends, neighbors, you know, not a lot of our clients, of course, because a lot of them were in jail, but and we wouldn't want to, you know, be involved in any liquor licensing. But at any rate, it really took us only one night, because the idea was a good one, and people saw it, and it was already built, and we had our skin in the game, and that was very impressive to the investors, that it wasn't just us asking for the money. So, but when the smoke cleared, of course, we had one question we asked, before the smoke cleared, I should say. And this was where a lawyer made a decision and mentored us and made a decision that changed everything, changed our whole world. And we asked Bob, now, in doing the limited partnership, do we have to give the investors 50% of the restaurant in Beverly Hills, or the entire idea? And he thought about it, and he said, you know, this is such a good idea. He says, I think you only have to give them the interest in the one restaurant, and not only that, my partner and I will invest $10,000 of that money. He could have been very selfish and said, no, it's 50% of the whole idea, and he'd invest $10,000, but he didn't. And that decision changed our world, because I'll tell you why. We opened the restaurant. It was a big success, but we thought we were going to have our law practice. We actually moved our law practice right next door to the restaurant, and we never got a new client. And I look back and I understand that. If I had to get brain surgery, I don't think I'd go to a brain surgeon who was running a pizza parlor. And people who are facing the jail terms think like that. They are very worried about who their lawyer is, and we just never got another client. So we had literally taken our foot off at first before we could steal second. And we had to run. So we had to build more restaurants. So meaning we certainly weren't going to make enough money off the first restaurant to build a second restaurant. So we had to scurry back to our mentor lawyer, Bob Kahn, and say, well, what can we do now? And Bob said, well, I put a provision in your limited partnership agreement you can convert to a corporation. He said, so we can convert it to a corporation and then raise money by selling more stock. Now, already we were a big hit in Beverly Hills. So we did that, but we didn't want to cram down to the investors who thought they had an interest in a limited partnership that they were now going to be stockholders. So we made an offer, we converted to a corporation, we gave it a $5 million asset value, by the way. When the smoke cleared, Rick and I, my partner and I, owned 92% of the company, and the investors only owned 8%. But we didn't think that was fair to cram it down their throats, so we offered anybody that didn't like the deal, this is only after 6 months, that we would buy out their interest for 20% return on their money. Only 2 investors took us up, one $5,000 investor, which is very happy to get $6,000 back, and one $10,000 investor who was very happy to get $12,000 back. And then we went on our way, and to make a long story short, we kept growing and growing by doing new stock offerings. Till our lawyer called us in one day and said, after we had 26 restaurants, you have about 300 stockholders, and we had kept raising the asset value. And we had done very well. We used to almost laugh about it because who knew what it was really worth? So we used to say, let's put on our green visors every time we needed money to build restaurants and go figure out what we're going to give to the asset value to the new offering. And then people who wanted to sell out because they wanted to get out, we got them out. We matched them with people who wanted to buy in. Everybody was very happy. Along came 26 restaurants and the need to go public or go to jail. That's sort of the way he put it. Because we were getting very close to being a public company the way we were operating. And the beauty of the restaurants were doing great. We had 26 of them. And just as we already paid a bunch of money in attorney's fees. I remember Skadden-Arps loved us. And along came Pepsi-Cola and said, will you take a meeting? And we did, and the long story short is Pepsi-Cola bought half the company in 1992 they wanted us to stay in and keep 50% of our position. And they didn't force any of the stockholders out, but they bought half the company and anybody who wanted to sell out other than Rick and I for a $140 million valuation. That meant that the original stockholders who invested in us in 1985, 22 times their investment if they chose to sell. We went along merrily with Pepsi, learning how to completely ruin a business. They gave us so much money. I mean, sometimes I can tell you, and your mentors here will tell you, too much money can be a bad thing because it can cause you to make silly errors. And we just started assigning, we thought we couldn't fail. And Pepsi took that position that we were just small fry to them. They had Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, KFC, and they said, open away. We'll give you all the money you want on a loan at our interest rate, which is like 3%, and you don't have to pay us back for 7 years, even interest. Well, I mean, we were like bulls in a china shop. We were signing every lease we could find, building all over. And all of a sudden, it started dawning on us, and of course Pepsi, that some of the restaurants weren't doing that well. We hadn't found our customer. We thought too much of ourselves. Our egos had gotten ahead of us. And they told us to stop building. I don't want to run out of too much time. How am I doing? I'm okay? Because I'm going to tell you another very interesting story that shows you that, and I'm sure your mentors will tell you, that sometimes, you know, all your brilliance, all your thinking, everything you do can be right on, and sometimes it's just damn luck that enters into your life. And yes, you can be in the right place at the right time, so luck can find you. But it's luck, and I'm going to tell you a story of California Pizza Kitchen and its lucky break. So here we are, we have 86 restaurants then, and we had been frozen in our tracks. That's when we actually started to do foreign development to keep the illusion alive that we were growing. And franchising, and we franchised to the airports. We started doing a lot of things that we could do without spending money. But they wanted their problem was that they couldn't take any of our losses because they only owned 50%, and they needed to control the company to take losses. So the losses every year were going to waste, the tax losses. And so they came to us. Indra Nooyi, who was on our board, and I don't know how many of you have heard that name. She's probably one of the most powerful women in the United States, chairman and CEO of Pepsi. She's a dear friend, is on our board, and we knew her very, very well. And we used to have dinner with her and her husband, and she's a great connoisseur of great wines. And we used to sit in New York at a place called Scanatella and talk about business forever. And she was just amazing to listen to. The former chairman, or chairman that we sold the company to, told us that she was the smartest woman in Pepsi, and one day would be chairman and CEO of Pepsi. He predicted that. And she used to talk about how Pepsi should be out of the restaurant business. And she meant KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, not just CPK, and they owned a Mexican restaurant, it's eluding me now. But they owned a couple of casual dining chains. And she really was adamant that it was very capital intensive and not very good return on investment. But that was her position, and we listened, and it came time where Pepsi came to us and they wanted to renew our contract where they could take control. They wanted to change their debt to preferred shares. so they could take control of the company and take the write-off. We said that was fine with us. It was even fair because we had run up $100 million in debt. But we knew we had not done a great job as CEOs. But we said, thinking about what Indra said, we said, but we want a 5-year continuance of our contract that you can't sell the company till 2001. This was 1996. And they fought us on that. I mean, for a couple of months they fought us on that. Finally, one day they just gave in and they say, okay, we'll do it. And we signed a new contract, and they're giving them control, and they took control. They sent in a new CEO. You want to feel bad about something, sometimes be CEO and be replaced. That's always exciting. But you know, we still had a big equity interest in California Pizza Kitchen. And so we stayed on, we were co-chairman, executive co-chairman. And along comes a guy by the name of Cisneros out of Venezuela. And he has a meeting with the then chairman of Pepsi, Roger Enrico, and he's supposed to meet with him to renew his bottling agreement. And he comes in to meet with Roger, and Roger sends him to see one of his underlings. Well, Cisneros is a multi-billionaire, still to this day a very powerful man. And he went back to Venezuela and got very angry. And when the contract was up at 12 midnight on a certain night, he painted every one of his trucks from Pepsi to Coke, and overnight Venezuela went Coke. And Pepsi stock took a $10 dive over a couple-week period because the foreign markets were so important, still so important, as you all know. And that when you have 1,600,000,000 shares of stock out, you take a $16 billion hit, you wince. And Pepsi winced. And they made it. One day we're sitting in our office, and a reporter calls us and said, we have an announcement, we have a reporter on the line, they told me, that wants to talk to you. We got on the phone, and the reporter says, Pepsi has just made an announcement, Roger Enrico has just announced that he's getting out of the casual dining restaurants. They took this one step at a time. And that he's selling you as Eastside Mario's, us, and Chevys. And we said, well, we knew he couldn't. So we held our, you know, we were smart enough not to talk to the press. We learned that in our legal days. So we called immediately to Indra. And we said, what's this? We're just getting a call from a reporter. She says, hold on, I'm going to have somebody call you. A guy by the name of Chaz Phillips calls us. He says, hello, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Chaz Phillips. He says, I'm with Gleacher & Company in New York City, and I've been assigned to help you in the sale of your company. And we said, wait a minute. He said, please, hold on one second. He says, I've heard about you two guys, my partner and I, and sort of a reputation for not taking much guff. But he said, just before you say another word, he said, you won the lottery. And what he meant was they knew they couldn't sell us, but they knew something else that you guys always have to understand is money is power. And they knew there was a price, there was a deal that they were going to make because we were nothing to them. They were so big that they knew we would sell the company. And you know what? They were right. But we knew we had the power. So it became a three-way transaction. It was Pepsi, us, and the new buyer. And eventually it turned out to be Bruckman, Rosser, and Sherrill, a fund out of New York. And they were great at negotiating, better than we could have. And when the deal cleared, we and our shareholders were not diluted one bit. $100 million disappeared from our balance sheet, just went away. And you can't find that to this day when you go back and you see when Pepsi, you know, they formed Yum, they spun off Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and KFC along with us. We all went out with the baby with the bathwater. We are a part of a rounding error, you know, just a write-off. They don't even mention us in the deal. You can't find our deal. But we walked away with a clean balance sheet. They took back our 10 worst restaurants, the ones that were really losing money, and closed them on their books. And we walked away with a brand new company. And in 2000, we took it public. And if you've been paying attention to us, in August, we bought it back. So I've seen about everything. And, but I can tell you this, and we were talking earlier, I'll give you one piece of advice, and I really do want to open it up to questions so you can really get to the meat of what you might want to know. Equity and understanding the balance between equity and debt and the importance of what those things are and what they can be and the forms they can take is the key, the simple key, I think, to growing any business. I could not have grown a great brand without having a lot of luck and having equity and debt fall into the right place. You have to have the ability to make hard decisions and move forward, even when you're in tough times. And that's all about the balance of equity and debt, and then about the form it takes. I mean, I could talk to you a lot about it, but the answer is right now in the world today, good ideas don't think they're in trouble. Good ideas are exciting. There's money out there. There's lots of money out there. The banks are stifled, but not private investors. Right now, there is a field of private investors. We call it, I'm trying to be as polite as I can, unsophisticated money, I guess you'd call it. It's not fund money. It's, there's lots of vulture capitalists out there. There's lots of funds, very smart guys know how to really take a young entrepreneur and tie him into knots. But there's a lot of money out there that are high risk takers, that appreciate good ideas, that appreciate young, exciting people who will back you, who need to place their money because they are not having a lot of success placing money right now and are very much stifled in a lot of ways in how they place their money. And so a lot of people think we're in such big trouble. It's only trying to now figure out ways, if you want my humble opinion, ways of taking and matching what we call unsophisticated, but yet billionaires, millionaires, very wealthy people, very smart people, and taking their money that they're looking for homes for and taking it and placing it with really smart ideas. And that is a great business in and of itself, is figuring out how to do that. And mostly everybody runs to become a banker or to deal in the big banks. If I were to get involved in that, I'd be out trying to form a company that did exactly that, try to match what we call unsophisticated money with smart ideas. And that's probably the biggest lesson I have and the biggest lesson I've learned at California Pizza Kitchen. I can tell you all about brand building. I mean, everybody can. Everybody's had a view of what a brand, I don't even know what a brand is. The truth. I was talking to my wife today. I said, what is a brand? And I think in my world, a brand is I hold up our logo. You don't have to read it. You know it's CPK. I always said I want to own yellow like Starbucks owns green. Logo's very important to a restaurant brand. But when I look at a thing, I talk to my wife. I said, can you tell me the brand that makes the little fingernail clippers? That everybody in this room's got one. The toenail and fingernail clippers. You don't have to talk to little leverage guys. What's the name of the brand? Yeah, everybody's got one. So I don't know how you define a brand really. I think it's the best way I know how to define it is if there's a big demand and you make a lot of money with it, you got a brand. With that, I think I'll as long as I got a laugh, I'll open it up for questions and try, be as tough as you want on me. Hey, first of all, the knowledge of the law is really helped out in a lot of ways. It always, there would be times it would enter into it. We were just good negotiators from being good trial lawyers, and that really helped out. And then knowing enough to hire lawyers that knew what they were doing in areas we didn't helped out too. What I think law really brought to the table, law is a tremendous discipline of logic, of being able to see the dominoes fall. Because that's what you have to do, especially as a trial lawyer. You have to see what a whole trial is going to unfold like and what it's going to look like from the beginning to the end. And to be able to see down the road, that discipline really helped out in our business dealings, to be able to see the dominoes and watch which way they would fall. LA Food Show was, unfortunately, a great concept at the wrong time. It's casual dining, more of the $17 to $20 price tag, has everything from hamburgers to steaks, has no pizza. I often said if I took LA Food Show and combined it with CPK and put a bunch of television screens in it, I'd have a better BJ's. but that's not my call anymore. I'm no longer CEO of California Pizza Kitchen, and so what they do with LA Food Show is more their call. I've got new fish to fry, and it's still exciting times. The restaurant business is great. It really is. It really offers a tremendous opportunity, but it's also very risky. Don't let me mislead you. We were just hearing it was quoted that I think 128 new restaurants have opened in downtown Los Angeles in the last 3 years, but I asked how many are still open. I mean, there's a tremendous fatality rate. And so what I also say is it's a business, it's a serious business dealing with a lot of moving parts, a lot of people. It takes a lot of great people. We have 18,000 employees. You really have to know how to deal with people, how to lead people, and how to get there to buy in and bring that energy, because the restaurant business is entertainment. We're in the entertainment business, and we're in the arts. If you define art as that which appeals to the senses, I contend food is the only full art. Smell, taste, sight. We're also tactile. We touch our food, pizza especially, hamburgers, sandwiches, fried chicken, ribs. You name it. I mean, we love touching food, all of us. So we're very tactile. So we have the sense of touch, the sense of sight, how food looks. California cuisine, my God, played off on how to make food look beautiful, look artistic. The only one that gave me a little problem was hearing, the sense of hearing, until I invented the 3-crunch salad. Then people got it, because you do hear yourself when you eat food. After we went public, yes, we just did. The company sold to a fund that came. We sold to a fund. Golden Gate Capital now owns California Pizza Kitchen. They came in and bought out all the shareholders at $18.50 a share. And just in terms of the growth of business, a lot of your mentors understand this, is over the years, I'm 69 years old, and we've been in this 26 years. Over the years, each stage, we sold a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. And you get to the point where you've sold so much that you realize that your equity is down so far. If you really want to capitalize on your talent, it's time to start over. And I think we pretty much got to that point so that we were ready to start something new. And I always loved CPK, always be founder. But the trouble is you sometimes can whittle your equity down so much that it's just ego that keeps you involved with your company rather than using your ability to create equity in a new concept and your own wealth to do that.
Quick question, but before I ask, I want to make a comment. Thai chicken pizza, I love it. It's amazing.
What's that? Which one?
Thai chicken pizza.
Thai.
It's amazing. If you designed it, you're a godlike.
I did. Peanut, but people with peanut allergies always get mad at me on that.
My question is, you started your company back in 1984. Times were quite different then than they are now. You raised money, it sounds like, 3 ways. You bootstrapped it yourself, you did friends and family, and you were able to get a loan on your law practice. I guess it's collateral. Could you do CPK today? Could you start the company like you did then? Could you do that now?
Could I or would I? That's 2 questions. Well, the problem is I probably wouldn't, because if I had understood the magnitude of what we were getting ourselves into when we blindly ran into it, I probably would have scared myself to death and said, no, I can't say that for sure. I can't honestly say that, but I know if I think something's going to cost $200,000 and it ends up costing $550,000, I'm going to be pretty shook up. And that's what happened, and it happened very quickly, but it's true, it's what happened. And we had already signed the lease and we're already building, so we didn't have a choice to go forward. But today, let's put it this way, put aside the issue of whether I would have done it or not under the circumstances. Could California Pizza Kitchen start today? Absolutely. I mean, good ideas. You get so tired of watching everybody beat us up, the economy and to terrify us. And I think the politicians on both sides have their own reasons for scaring us in different directions. But the truth is, there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much demand. There's the United States of America is a major engine, and new ideas are starting every day and doing very, very well. And people are looking to back young people that have great ideas, and yeah, I think there's no question in my mind that a great idea. Now, it may take a different form. What's going on right now in the restaurant business is not casual dining. It's what we call casual fast. Panera Bread, Corner Bakery, our smaller units, getting away from full service, getting away from higher check averages, getting away from tip. What people really should focus on is when you do casual fast, you take out anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20% of the check average because you've taken out the tip factor. In fact, a lot of the really smart chains say no tipping necessary. They've actually put it right out in the restaurant, and there are chains growing like crazy. The hamburger chains are certainly the most obvious. I mean, you've got Five Guys, Smash Burger. Danny Myers has started a great concept you haven't seen yet in New York called Shake Shack. And they're doing $10 million a year out of these places with no full service. Casual dining has gone from 6%, I think, to 12% of the restaurants in the last 3 years or something like that. But you are going to see more and more of development in what we call casual fast restaurants. And I think I've given you the examples. The one that gets a lot of attention is Steve L's operation, the grill. Chipotle Grill. He's just opened the Shop House, which I just saw last week in Washington, D.C., which is an Asian bowl concept that he's doing. The sandwiches are going to be big. So many things are happening in food. So I wouldn't necessarily say California Pizza Kitchen is where, exactly, but to go into the restaurant business, especially in the casual fast arena, if you have a great idea, boy, there's going to be there is so much demand for it.
Question? How long had California Pizza Kitchen been operating before you decided to use CPK and branding, and was that a conscious decision, and what went into the abbreviation? I'm
going to tell you a story. Last night, we had dinner with Rod Dyer, just by happenstance. I haven't seen Rod Dyer for, 10 years. Rod Dyer is the guy who designed the California Pizza Kitchen logo. That logo was designed before we opened the restaurant. There is a little CPK in the bottom of the logo. I always dreamed from before I opened the first restaurant. And it wasn't because of KFC. It was because when I went to high school, I went to Hamilton High here in Los Angeles. And when I went to high school, there was where the Beverly Wilshire is, there was a pharmacy. And it also had one out in Palm Springs called Milton F. Christ was the name of the drugstore, and it had a fountain. And we used to all meet there after going to movies or whatever. And we'd say, we'll meet at MFK's. That stuck with me. So when I designed the whole logo, and the idea was that we felt that branding in restaurants with logo was so important, so we had Rod Dyer design it, and we put that little CPK in the bottom, hoping that people would pick up on it, and they did. In fact, my partner had dinner with a golf pro. He's on Callaway's board at one of the tournaments, Australian Fast, I think his name is, or South African, maybe. And he asked Rick what he did, and he told him, well, I have this restaurant, and it's called California Pizza Kitchen. And he said, oh yeah, tell me about it. And he started to describe it. He says, do you mean CPK? So, it worked, but the answer, I think the question was, did we plan the logo out, or did we plan before we opened the restaurant to brand it? And the answer was yes, and the fact that you asked that question just struck me, because who did I end up having dinner with last night, who I'm going to go back to for my next concept, is Rod Dyer, and he designed all the logos, Spago's. I don't think he designed Starbucks, but he's designed most of the logos, Cheesecake, a lot of them. So the answer is, oh yeah. In our theory of branding, the logo was really important.
challenges you faced? Like, what did you take away from that?
Well, we had an interesting situation. We were co-CEOs. My partner and I were partners for 38 years. We have been. We just, right now, are not business partners right now. And so it was an interesting experience because we shared a lot of what one CEO has to do. We were able to do with two. And it made life a lot easier. I had certain things I loved to do. I loved to create the food. I loved to be in the kitchen. He was the guy who understood more contracts, loved to read, not loved to, but did really read the lease. I'll be very honest with you, I don't think I've ever read a lease in my life. He has. And he's very good with the banks and very good financially. He was the guy, when we were public, if you listen to our calls, Rick would always open up. He says, I'm pleased to be here today on our fourth quarter call, and with me is my co-CEO and co-founder, Larry Flax. And you never heard my voice. For all the years we were public on those calls, I was always there. But he was the one that would deal with the analysts, deal with the finances, deal with that stuff, and I would deal with I love giving speeches, I love going out and rallying the troops and becoming the emotional leader of CPK. That was the most fun for me, really having the people love what they were doing. And so we split it up. So that was my experience of being CEO, was how fortunate I was to have this unique partnership. We never had an argument. I mean, we disagreed, but never got mad. Never got mad. We never saw the point in it. We just wanted to get it right. It's I suppose what a good marriage should be made of. You just want to get things right. It isn't like who's right. It's get it right. And I think if I give anybody that's a CEO, the best advice I can give them is, even in their dealings with their own people, is if you have disagreements with your people, is worry about those disagreements. Make sure when you make your decision, which you ultimately have to make, that you really are pretty comfortable you're right. It's not fun to hear later on that you should have listened. Back of the room.
I think a lot of people right now are considering how to get a job as they graduate. So you must have made a lot of hires. What can people do to stand out when they're trying to get an interview and after they get the interview?
Boy, that's interesting, because I didn't, do a lot of the, interviewing, towards in the last lot of years of like restaurant managers and things of that nature. I think, first of all, congratulations, you're at USC. That's a big deal. A lot of people say, well, what did USC give to you? To me. That was one of the questions that was suggested. And I can tell you, I had a chance to say it at the Alumni Awards, as I said, you know what USC is able to do, and I believe you guys are the beneficiaries of it? They give you the belief that you could have an original thought. You could be somebody to think of something before anybody else thought of it. And that's what I think this school brings to the table. When you get out of USC, by God, you believe in yourself. And if I could give you one suggestion is when you interview, you go in believing in yourself and taking that attitude and being very proud of where you come from, the school you went to, the fact that a lot of weight is given to that already, that no one can make really fast judgments on anybody's real abilities, but they can on their self-confidence. And that's what I take to the interview, is a complete feeling of self-confidence. And sometimes you can do, if you are a shy person or a person who does have a lot of brains but not a lot of self-confidence, there's actually tutors you can go to, people you can get help from in terms of how you present yourself. By God, look at the candidates now running for President of the United States who hire people to help them be able to debate, to be able to talk. I mean, what more can you say that use those resources? I remember when I first started to get some notoriety with CPK, I actually took speaking a radio class from Don Burns. Everybody ever heard of Don Burns, The Wave? Great voice. Anyway, I took a class from him because how to emote. And he taught me one simple thing, is try to smile as much as you can. People really sound better when they're smiling. In fact, I often when I call people on the phone, I get their answering machine and they come out really flat. I can never resist. If I know them very well, I'll say, Jim, re-record, you are not smiling. But there are, you need that era of self-confidence. People really want to see that because you already got your credentials coming from USC.
I eat at your restaurants a lot, and I'm really impressed with the customer service and feel a personal feeling there where the waiters and waitresses have their name tag and they have the city that they're from, and there's a kind of really unique connection you don't see in restaurants doing that. Was that your idea, or who thought of that?
I wish it was my idea. So many of the ideas that we put forth, you get credit for because people think you thought of them. And it was not my idea. It was Steve Wynn's idea. When we opened the Mirage Hotel with Steve Wynn, who was one of our earlier investors, he did that, and he did it, and I picked up on it. And what I realized was it gave a personality to the person. And in fact, a short story is I went to my Indianapolis restaurant one time, and there was this young lady from India, from Nepal, who was working for us, and her name tag said Indianapolis. And I said, "You're from Nepal?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'm here, so I want you to do. Change your name tag and put Nepal, and call me in a month and tell me what happened to your tip percentages." And she did, and they had gone up 10%. And what I realized, and then I sent out the message to make sure all my managers let people put anything they wanted on. They could have put the moon if they wanted to, and say, "Why do you say the moon?" "Because I want to go to the moon." It starts conversation and makes somebody real. It was a really good idea, and unfortunately, it was Steve Wynn's, and I have to be honest about that. Thank you, Steve. But it was a good idea, and it works. Yes? At first, it had we saw, because we have more than 20 restaurants and 10, and, you have to post it in the, I hate it. I have to tell you, I hate having to write all this stuff on menus, and I think it's like when we first started the restaurant business, everybody's putting little hearts. But then it was the American Heart Association, which was approving certain menu items, and certain menu items met their specifications and others, and I wouldn't do that, because I always thought it made people feel guilty that didn't order the little heart item. And so we never did it, and I don't like it. I understand it. I understand providing the information. The quick answer is, it doesn't have that much impact. The truth of the matter is, if people care all that much, that's why some of these health food restaurants are doing well. I would never want to invest in a health food restaurant because I don't think it's as entertaining as investing in a restaurant that gives more pleasure. Because quick anecdote. Working with Michael Milken and Faster Cures, and we were in New York, and part of Faster Cures and their concerns are about obesity, as a lot of people are. And he was concerned, he couldn't understand. He said, why is obesity going up when we know so much about the problems of obesity? And he says, for instance, with tobacco, the more we got out about tobacco, the less people smoked. But it isn't true about food. And I said, the simple answer, Michael, if you really understand the restaurant business, we are in the entertainment business. I said, we may call this a recession, but people are just depressed. They really are. It's a very depressing time created, unfortunately, by a lot of forces beyond any of our control, and maybe not even true that they should be so depressed, but they are. So what do? They make love, that's for sure. And I think you'll see a lot more babies born because of this, but they also eat. And they eat for pleasure, and it makes them feel good. And it isn't, if you go to, I promise you, take a trip to New York City and go stand in front of the Shake Shack, Danny Meyer's Shake Shack, and watch them line up for the frozen custard, the crinkly fries, and the hamburgers. Out the door, every day, from opening till closing, you'll realize, and the people that isn't what's on their mind right now, primarily. Now, that doesn't mean that a lot of you don't think that way, but I can tell you a lot more want to be entertained. That's just the simple truth. So we didn't see much impact. What happened was, initially, we saw a shift away from the Thai salad, because it was pretty caloric, and then it slowly came back. And then, of course, we put on our Light Bite menu, which for people who wanted that, but it's not a big seller. And on any new concept that I would do, I would have healthy choices. It doesn't hurt me to have healthy choices. I'll tell you I'm not going to make a lot of money on them, but we have them. And then there are the concepts out there, the veggie grills of the world, and concepts like that that are really going after that market. But I think it's a very limited market.
One more question.
One more question. Yes, sir.
When you first started and you have your partner, Rick, how did you decide that? Would you have done it alone, or did you realize you needed a partner?
I would never have done it alone. We just had a very unique partnership. It started in the U.S. Attorney's Office as prosecutors, and then we took it and we became criminal attorneys. We tried cases together all over the United States. We truly were a terrifically matched pair in terms of talents. And, you know, what talents he didn't have, I had, and what talents I had and he didn't have. We just matched. To the point where if I do the next thing and I do it alone, I'm going to have to worry my head off trying to fill that partnership. Because right now, right now I'm developing something on my own because Rick's pretty happy playing golf. I go nuts. My wife wants me out of the house, so I've got to figure something out. And believe me, as Joni knows, I have tremendous anxiety over the fact that I'm going to have to figure this out. But maybe by this time I'll be able to give some opportunity to some young people to join me that will fill my gaps.
You could hire everybody.
Everybody here? Let's see. I'll set up a table and we'll start interviewing. Thank you very much for having me. I really had fun.